Is it time for you to get behind the wheel of an electric car? We'll get into it next on Smart Money. Hi, I'm Pat Boyle along with Julia Anderson on Smart Money, and today we're going to talk about electric cars, and we bring in our auto expert Nick Miles at ourautoexpert.com. Nick, it's so good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for
Hi, Nick.
inviting me.
We really
Hello.
appreciate your time and expertise. I'm going to start it out by asking you that general question, which is between climate change crisis and Elon Musk Tesla, it seems like there's a lot of growing interest in electric cars. So what do we have on the market now, and what do you see coming down the road in a few years?
Such an interesting question, and thank you for asking. By the time I finished answering it, I will be out of date. That's how fast things are moving. It's driven a lot by politics, actually, and financial drive from our cities, from our states, and from our federal government. So the mandates that were put in place to reduce your overall fleet number, they're called CAFE standards. And CAFE standards really are pushing automakers. When you count every single one of their vehicles, they have to bring their fuel consumption down to a certain level. That is the beginning of what we call fuel savings and the move towards electric. So that pushes these automakers to embrace the electric architecture of having those vehicles that push their CAFE numbers so they can have less overall fuel usage in the whole fleet of vehicles. Then there's federal mandates. There's the federal government is pushing to do it. Cities are pushing to do it. So there's so many elements that are pushing us to go towards electric. How many electric vehicles is not necessarily a good question because I can't count them. But I can tell you that in the next year, we will add over 100 new electric vehicles to market, different types, different styles. That's everything from the Tesla Cybertrucks all the way through to vehicles like Maserati, companies like Maserati who are making electric vehicles. So we're about to see a massive explosion, and we're kind of in the appetizer, the pre-fireworks display of the actual big firework display.
Kind of the happy hour electric cars.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, Nick, it seems like the biggest question for buyers is how far can you drive before your battery dies? And, how reliable are the batteries? Are electric car companies addressing this?
Batteries are very reliable. One of the misconceptions in the electric car industry is how long will my battery last in my Prius or my Honda Insight? And there are Prius owners out there with 10-year-old Priuses or Prii, I think is the correct term, that have no problems with their batteries whatsoever. But like anything over time, like you and I, Pat, we wear down and we don't function quite as well as we do brand new. And so batteries become less efficient the older they get. But battery technology overall is progressing immensely fast. Audi did a great study a few years ago that showed how the technology, and it doesn't just double. It's basically, it's such a crazy equation about how fast technology goes. And there are companies that are doing things like, there's the lithium, there's the lithium hydride, there's polyhydride batteries, there's solid state batteries that people are developing. There are so many. Battery technology is really what drives the whole industry. So that's what's pushing us forward. The cars are kind of the cherry and the cream on top of the sundae, but the true sundae is the battery.
So, Nick, it sounds like you're pretty enthusiastic about the future for electric car sales. And I just want to remind you that a couple of companies, was it GM that had the Volt out and they discontinued it for a while, or maybe it's discontinued now, I don't know, because the American public just wasn't ready to give up their vroom vroom gas-powered motor in their car. So. Right. What's the real outlook? What's the price range for some of these things?
Well, you can get into a Leaf, a Nissan Leaf, which is sort of the beginnings, that is maybe 3 or 4 years old for, I mean, 5 years old for as little as $7,000 if you buy used. It's not inexpensive. Or you can go and buy highly expensive $200,000 electric cars. There is such a range there for everybody. What we really need to do, let's talk about the range pack, because you asked that earlier on. So there are vehicles that do about 100 miles. They are sort of the very first generation electric cars. If you bring out an electric car today, you would be sorely short if you came out with a new car doing anything less than 250 miles of range. We are seeing most cars come out with 300 miles of range, and you will start to see vehicles that do that plus. So most of the cars being announced today, cars, trucks, and SUVs, it'll be electric, will be about 300-mile range, unless they're performance versions, and then you'll start to see 400 and 500-mile range. Now, there are Teslas that do more than 300-mile range, but, and there's a caution about here, Teslas are extremely advanced in their technology, but it's a new car company that has had multiple growing problems. Their technology is clearly state-of-the-art and clearly ahead of what most car companies were capable of doing, but they have build quality problems and they have infrastructure problems. So when you buy a Tesla, you have to understand those are some of the issues that you buy them. If you want to buy something that's more reliable and better built, you will be buying less of a technology stance. But there are new vehicles coming that I've been privy to that will blow your mind as far as what they can do in electric vehicles.
Well, it just blew my mind that when you said that there would be 100 new electric vehicles next year. And I just wondered, is there any major car company that's not embracing the electric car?
That's an interesting question. Everybody's at different levels. If you're not advanced enough to be able to do these things, you tend to partner with somebody. So, and some of the car companies that we don't usually see as electric car companies are actually electric car companies. I'll give you a perfect example of that. The car company that is the greenest in the world gets no credit for being the greenest, and that's Toyota. They are clearly the market leader. They have had the most hybrids, and which are by nature partially electric, the most hybrid vehicles out there for many years. They have produced millions and millions of hybrids, so saving millions of gallons of gas, millions of trees, and getting people millions more miles on a gallon of gas than they would have done if they had not had a hybrid. So Toyota, but you don't actually see Toyota as the electric car company. Most people consider they're a great car company, but not the leading in green power. So it depends how you look at this, because they are just coming out with their first electric vehicles. Ford done an amazing job. The Mach-E, which is their Mustang SUV, is probably one of the two that I would own that is on the street today. So everybody is doing it. In what level is different. You know, Jeep and all these car companies are doing electric vehicles, but they're doing plug-in hybrids versus pure BEV battery electric vehicles.
Great answer. Thank you. You've given us a lot of perspective on all this, Nick. We really appreciate your time. So here's the big question. I'm sitting here thinking, yeah, I don't know whether I want to own an electric car yet, but maybe soon I will. Or maybe my kids have already got a hybrid and they're pushing electric cars. So what are your 3 tips for someone who's brand new to the electric car idea for how to go buy one? What do you want to tell people?
So the first tip is, and this will be shocking when I get it out of my mouth, but it's true, and you'll understand when I get to the end of the explanation, is don't buy an electric car. Absolutely do not buy an electric car. And I'll tell you why. You should lease it, because the technology moves so fast that you will not be able to keep up with the new technology when they come out. So by leasing a car on a 1, 2, or 3-year lease, by the time that lease is up, you've really just paid down the residual value, of that car. And the technology will be so advanced in 1, 2, or 3 years' time when you're prepared to get into your next vehicle that you'll not be stuck with something that is so outdated in the market, and you're so sad. The second tip for you is, and it's shocking, right, to hear that, but it's when now you understand it's actually true. Nobody should ever buy an electric car. You should lease it. Second tip is don't go out looking at what's available in electric. Look at what, and this goes as a standard rule for every car purchase. Look at what you need. Look at what fits your lifestyle and what you need. Then go out and look at the amount of money that you have, and then go out and look at what car fits those two things, the amount of money that you have and what you actually need. Because you shouldn't be purchasing it the other way around, because you'll end up with something that doesn't work for you. That's tip number 2. So first of all, don't go shopping for an electric car. Go shopping for a car that fits your lifestyle that happens to be electric. That's super important. And the other tip is that test driving and dreaming are still free. You can test drive vehicles as much as you like. You are not forced to buy anything unless you sign on the line. So you should test drive everything that you can get your hands on before you buy, because I would hate to think somebody went out and bought a Volkswagen ID4 and 2 weeks later drove their friend's Ford Mustang Mach-E GT and thought, God, if only I'd driven this, I'd be so much happier in my life. So test drive everything.
Okay, I'm going to review that for you. First of all, lease, don't buy, because the technology is changing so fast. 2, figure out what your needs are before you ever start looking for a car, what your needs are and what you can afford. And finally, test drive a whole bunch of them. Is that right?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Test drive doesn't cost you anything. And why not? Right. I have a comical mantra with my friends. So my co-anchor here at Fox 5 in San Diego, where I happen to be working today, is Raul Martinez. And he is the happiest when he is shopping for a car. When he's purchased a car, the shopping is over and he can't enjoy dreaming and test driving and looking. So he enjoys shopping far more than he does the purchase. And so you should enjoy the shopping too.
Well, Nick, I just have to tell you, I drive an SUV. My husband drives a Mustang, and I didn't know there was a Mustang SUV. So you've just kind of opened my eyes. I have to talk to him about what is now available out there. The best of both worlds, apparently. Well, thank you for your expertise and time, Nick. It's been great. He is Nick Miles. You can find him at OurAutoExpert.com.
For more information, go to my website at 60andsingle.com.